So we're going to get started here. For those of you, Troy, if you see anybody out there, tell them to get their butts in here because we're going to get started. So we're hoping you're learning some things. There's a whole lot more to do the rest of this afternoon. But this is our Charles B. Rangel Awards Luncheon where we recognize a person or a company or an organization for some of the innovation that they've been involved in. And also, we have the great pleasure of having a few remarks from some of the esteemed people in our city. But most importantly, if you remember back in April, we had that legendary and historic debate for the congressional seat that Charlie Rangel has retired from. And we had a gentleman come and join us from MSNBC. He's an anchor at MSNBC, and he did a stupendous job. So we said, boy, not only is he part of our family, but he's sort of the master of ceremonies for anything and everything that we do. So it is a great pleasure of mine. I've tried to sort of fill in for him for the morning, just try to be sort of the host a little bit, but it's his time. It is the man, the one and only. He's broken many stories on MSNBC. If you ever watch Richard during the day, he is breaking stories and he challenges those who come on his show. And that's one of the things I love about what he does, and he will do that today. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to, let me bring back our brother, Richard Louis.
So, Clayton, first of all, good afternoon to all of you. And last time I was here, I was inspired by this man in what he has been doing. It's always a pleasure just to be here. However, I did do a little investigating before I came up here, and I heard that my good brother Clayton here has set a high bar for this afternoon. So after this, I'm ducking out. That's it, because he is the man. He is definitely the man. I want to do introduce our Luncheon Awards speakers, and if they could come up and sit next to Honorable Banks here, that would be great. Joshua Breitbart from the Mayor's Office. He's a senior advisor for Broadband. We also have Scott Stringer, NYC Comptroller, is going to be here shortly. He's on his way. Inez is also on her way from the City Council, and Clayton is on time. So thank you, Clayton. Thank you for being on time, Clayton. We appreciate that. And, yeah. And so I really love this topic very quickly because my first iteration of working was in Silicon Valley, was in tech. And so anytime that we can talk about issues that are so relevant not only to Silicon Valley, but of course here in Harlem, and after we had that fantastic debate discussion for Representative Rangel's seat, it was certainly an indication of how grounded and how important Silicon Harlem is important to Harlem, but also across the country when we talk about technology. So thank you. So as we get going, let's first bring up, as we do wait for our other two speakers, Joshua Breitbart from the Mayor's Office. And come on up, or if you want to sit over there, that works too. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Richard. So it's a great honor to be here on behalf of the mayor to congratulate Silicon Harlem on another amazing event, as well as the launch of Connect Uptown, which is a very exciting initiative. I just think it's a great note that Harlem is really the place to be in New York City to see federal communication commissioners, to see the coming together of policymakers and elected officials with the sharpest minds in the private sector of tech and nonprofits and researchers and community activists. This is really a unique gathering point in this city, and I just think it's such a great asset for the entire city that we have this convening point, and I think it's a badge of honor that it is in Harlem. And I really thank all the work that Bruce and Clayton do to make that happen, and their whole team, Yasmin, Anthony, I know the list goes on. For me personally, it's also a great honor to be here and to be able to thank these folks, Bruce in particular has been a role model and mentor to me for a decade or more that we've known each other in doing this work. I'm trying to catch up. And it's so amazing to see them continuing that work of mentorship at the Urban Assembly Gateway schools, where they've brought myself and a number of other folks, many that I see here today, to talk to the kids about career paths in tech, whether in policy or coding or some of the many other opportunities. With the Apps Youth Leadership Academy, it's just really fantastic to see that they continue that mentorship, and that we have in Silicon Harlem an entity that can provide the social fabric that connects all these different parts of our community, and folks that can go to either, whether it's at Columbia University talking to the engineers and the business folks, or talking to Light Tower and some of these other great companies in New York, as well as the people and businesses that make this city great. So that's an incredible opportunity. And I want to say that I think that, broadband does matter, and this mayor is very committed to the goals that we share and that you've helped us develop as members of the Mayor's Broadband Task Force. And it matters to connect all of us, but also because I think we're really only at the beginning of the kind of transformation that broadband is going to bring. And we've seen it transform so many different industries. And the next wave, as we start connecting so many of the things around us, as more of our communities get connected, we really do need community-based visions. And so it is, again, such a great asset to Harlem and now really to all Uptown Manhattan that we have that in this organization, and that we have all of you here today contributing to make that a reality. So thank you again. Congratulations to all the award winners, and thank you very much.
I do want to ask you one thing, since I'm a reporter. This is, of course, all off the record. Well, maybe it's not. I don't know. But since we're talking about broadband and you're a senior advisor to the mayor, what's one number you're watching that we should watch out for relevant to what you're talking about? Give us a number to look out for. Do you want me to stall a little bit?
Well, this is a challenging question, but one of the things that we do look at, and I can get a little wonky with you all, is the FCC does look at some data about where broadband infrastructure is available. And frankly, when we look at that data, we see that Uptown is really not a well-served area. And so I think we're looking for those census blocks uptown to go from red to green in terms of gigabit and fiber availability.
So what's the number, actually? What's the actual number?
You'll have to stay tuned for that.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to keep you in suspense.
That's still tweetable. That's still tweetable. So that's still workable. Yeah, go ahead. I don't know any numbers though. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I'm noticing people are getting the conference bags. Anyone get the conference bag? Everybody got their bag yet? If you have a bag, at some point today, I want to take a picture of you and the Silicon Harlem socks. Do you know we gave away socks, Richard?
No. I want to warn these. Actually, it'd be good if you all have it later holding them up. This would be a great shot. You can stand in the middle with your shoes off. Yeah? No? All right. Sorry, Bruce, I got to do this. All right, it's just... up next, for our awards luncheon and welcoming remarks, I'd like to welcome New York City's Comptroller, Scott Stringer, who just got here. Scott.
Once again.
Oh, what a packed house. It's great to be here today. And thank you, Richard. I'd also like to thank Clayton Banks and Bruce Lincoln, the co-founders of Silicon Harlem, for inviting me here today. And it really is great to be here with all of you. All of you are making the dream of this organization a reality to transform Harlem into the next center of technology and innovation. And it happens to make perfect sense because Harlem has a history, a culture. It's easy to get here. We're bustling with restaurants and businesses. Young people are coming to Harlem, and we have great diversity. Now, when I was borough president, I got a little nervous when one day I'm driving around the community, and all of a sudden on the side of a new luxury building, it said, "Welcome to Soha." Remember? I didn't say Soho, Soha. That was South Harlem. Weha is West Harlem, right? And in those days, they missed the point about what this community is. It is Harlem, and we have to make sure it stays that way. And that's something. But we also recognize that we have to attract venture capital firms from around the country to come to the community. And I want to give you some data points. In the first 2 quarters of 16, New York City took in 13% of national investments, representing some $2.8 billion. With that investment, the tech sector now employs almost 300,000 New Yorkers and pays $30 billion in wages every year. This is huge. And those numbers are citywide, but take a walk around Harlem today, and you can see the impact of new investments here. This neighborhood has never been so vibrant and so full of energy because the tech sector has come to town. This industry has added jobs nearly 6 times faster than the overall city employment, and that is incredible. But I have to tell you, too many New Yorkers are not prepared to compete for those jobs, and that's something we've got to work together to change, to make sure that every young person in this city has the chance to become an engineer, to work at a startup, or to launch their own business. And we have to start preparing our kids from the beginning when they enter elementary school. And that means providing coursework in the arts, computer science, to get students on track for careers in design and engineering. Arts education teaches students how to think outside the box and how to work collaboratively, both critical skills in a highly competitive market. Now, in 2014, my office found that more than 28% of New York City schools, many of them in our poorest neighborhoods, didn't have a full-time arts teacher. 28%, think about that. No coincidence that where we found the biggest gap was in the South Bronx and in central Brooklyn. Once we came out with this report, City Council said, hey, that's not right. Let's put up $23 million and let's get some arts teachers into the school system. Every child should have an arts education. It's not a free period anymore, right? Sat down with Mayor de Blasio. He said, is this report real? I said, yes, sir. He said, okay, I'm in. Let's do it. And we collaborated, the mayor, my office, and the city council, to make sure that we put our line in the sand and said every kid needs an arts education, because when you think about high tech, you can't do it without art and you can't do it without science. So it's it has come, the nexus is there. And it was a victory for the kids, but it's not enough. We now need to build a strong computer science foundation in our classrooms. And the city last September launched the Computer Science for All initiative, and I happen to think it's a terrific idea. But the program is not planned to reach all city students until the year 2025, 10 years after it launched. 10 years ago, the iPhone did not exist. And 10 years from now, I don't even know what the iPhone 99 will do, right? That thing is gonna walk my kid to school, right? Right? It's talk. Gonna be a substitute daddy when I gotta work, right? And we have to come to terms with the fact that if we wait a decade, we wipe out a whole generation of kids. So my 4.5-year-old and 3-year-old, if they can't get that computer science now, they're going to be 10 years behind. Now, how do we get there? Well, sometimes we have to look at what other cities are doing. Chicago is making introductory computer science a requirement in every school district within 3 years. A requirement. Imagine if the public schools in this community had that as a requirement. What's going to happen for the kids in Harlem, right? They're going to grow. They're going to get this education. And we all know our kids are the smartest in New York City, right? They're smart because they got swagger, they got attitude, they got diversity, you know? It's unbelievable. You know, my little 4.5-year-old said to me, I said, you know, Max, we're going to have a daddy day. And he said, great. I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to go get some toys. And I said, no. We don't go get toys. We're going to get to know each other. He said, Daddy, I know you. You know me. Why don't we just get the toys and have some fun, right? So I'm a total New York City street hustler, right? I don't know if he's going to be doing 3-card Monte outside Macy's or being a computer engineer. And I tell you this as a 56-year-old daddy, right? Who got that ARP card in the mail at 50 and started to move fast. So I feel I can come back to the community and tell you. So why am I lost in this? Because I have to have this daddy dance. It'll cost me $100. Okay, so why do I tell you about the kids? Because this is no longer a luxury. And here's something I want to tell you about San Francisco. They recognize that computer science has to be taught in the public schools and even earlier. We need a 0 to 3 curriculum. Can you believe that? You see that to those 2-year-olds, they're swiping. The chip is in their head now. We all make it up as we go along. So I'm here to tell you that we have to begin to educate these kids today. It's no longer a luxury. Access to the internet is an essential component of modern life, and it is a pathway for education and jobs. Now, a couple of years ago, my office released a report that highlighted the digital divide in our city. And I want to give you some of those numbers because I think it will inform this discussion. We found that more than 765,000 households across the 5 boroughs lacked broadband internet. Almost 450,000 households didn't even have a computer in this day and age, right? That's like not having a landline, right? A landline phone. This disparity is not a citywide problem. It's a problem based on where you live. 1/3 of households in the Bronx lack broadband, and 27% of the households in Brooklyn. 25% of Latino New Yorkers and 24% of African American New Yorkers don't have broadband. Now you compare that to 17% white New Yorkers and 12% Asian American. Lack of access to the internet is a serious socioeconomic challenge that deserves our attention now, because the internet helps us get ahead. You got to view job listings, take online courses, apply for affordable housing, and yet the folks who need the computers the most don't have them in the city. And that's why we joined with Borough President Diaz and other borough presidents to fight for public Wi-Fi beyond Manhattan in communities that need it the most. You know those kiosks? We needed them not just in the central business district, and we won that fight with the city. We said, no, we've got to be everywhere. And that's why today I am proud to support the Silicon Harlem Universal Community Broadband Initiative. Every single household, give it up, every single household, every single business in Upper Manhattan deserves affordable gigabyte internet. And that's how the kids are going to get ahead. That's how young Harlem adults will apply for college. It's how Harlem businesses will grow. And it's how Harlem will become the next Silicon Valley. I cannot tell you how much I know as Comptroller that the future of this economy is sitting right here today. It really is. How are we going to get our kids into this next economy? This is the way we do it. Coder jobs, programmer jobs, young entrepreneurs coming to Harlem, people of all diverse backgrounds, saying to the kids uptown that we're going to bring you the education and then that entrepreneurial opportunity. Think about when some of us were growing up, as I was back in the day, growing up in Washington Heights, growing up in Harlem. Do you remember when there were no banks in the community? In my community, we didn't even know there was a swipe card at Citibank until we were 21 years old, because we didn't have banks, right? We didn't have developers coming in. We didn't have people wanting to invest in our communities. Now, there are problems with that kind of investment because that creates gentrification. But if we are strategic, we can take that investment and plow it into our children with the new economy. And that is something that is going to grow the city. So finally, and I want to leave this with the entrepreneurs. We have to create wealth beyond South of 96th Street in Manhattan. To me, this is about wealth creation. It's good to raise the minimum wage, but it is better to invest in women and minority-owned businesses and create job opportunities that grow communities. And wealth creation is critical to going from the entry of our city to the middle class and beyond. This is about creating wealth. So I wanted to come here today and commend the people here, the work that you're doing. We've got to do this around the city. But can I just say one thing with politicians? Don't accept the minimum. Don't let them tell you that we're going to do this 10 years from now and 20 years from now. Don't let them tell you that we're making some progress. You have a right to demand that this city acts bold, with real sincerity, and a real strategic plan that can be measured. And I want to assure you as Comptroller, if there's no plan that can be measured, I will measure it and report back to you. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Comptroller, thank you. iPhone 99. I think your son's going to be making it for us. Yeah.
Really?
And I think the iPhone 99 will also be able to change the weather for us, like on an auspicious day like
My
this.
son is making it. How much will he get paid?
Something with a 99.
Right.
Yeah, something with a 99. That's. And yes, right. And I think you'll be the one maybe that will be giving him the job, right? His son. That's what Silicon Harlem will be doing. Up next, please warm welcome for one of our esteemed council members, Inez Dickens.
Of course. Hey, Harlem. What's going on, family? It's so good to be here. And with a phenomenal crowd like this and being an elected, I've got to say, November 8th, I've got to put it out there, is Election Day. So please come out, all of you, no matter what community that you live in, reside in, vote from, come out and vote. Now, I didn't say for whom, so they can't knock me for that. But I want to thank all of you. But I want to particularly say to Clayton and to Bruce, thank you, because the idea of Silicon Harlem arose out of your brains, your interest, your love of seeing to it that Harlem became Silicon Harlem. Give it up for them. Come on, y'all. Come on. And because of Congressman Rangel, I was in on the ground floor with that. Wasn't my idea, but I'm going to steal it anyway. Congressman Rangel, when he first met Clayton and Bruce, saw in them an initiative, a spark that was needed in order to bring our youth, our future, our families, our community into not the 21st, the 20th century. Because of the Harlem swagger that he's got, and because of his strong fight and belief, and I thank you for recognizing him and honoring him today, and he's only not here because he usually comes every month. He's only not here because he is on the campaign trail for the Democrats, and he's in Florida, and he's got to go to Ohio. So that's the only reason he's not here, is that he's been on the campaign trail. At 86 years old, that man is still rocking it nationally. But the lion of Lenox Avenue saw in these two minds a spark, an initiative that was necessary in order for our children, our families, our businesses to grow. Now, I walked in and listened to our comptroller, our money man, to talk about it. I saw Lloyd Williams here, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, and I could talk about Harlem Business Alliance. I could go on and on, the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce. I could talk about all of the organizations. But without Silicon Harlem, we don't grow. And so it's important that we continue to get together, that we continue to network, that we continue to advocate that Silicon Harlem will not only stay alive, but it will grow and it will go into our schools as they are doing right now in order to educate our future. I am so proud to be here, and I try to come as often as I can. So many of you do see me at the monthly meetings. Sometimes I speak, sometimes I don't. But Bruce and Clayton, I stand here and publicly say to you, thank you. Thank you for the ideas of making me even think about talking to Lloyd about making the highest point that we've got in Manhattan at Marcus Garvey Park, making that a central hub so that that's where tech could start from. We could have Wi-Fi in our community. I want to thank you, the two of you, for enforcing and making all of us, the electeds on all levels, Lucille, they made us think about what had to be done to put the Department of Ed on the right track so that technology would not only be downtown schools, but in the uptown schools north of 96th Street. It's because of the two of you. It's because of the two of you that at PS 197, I was able to build a computer lab and put in more than 50 Apple computers with printers and iBooks so that our kids in our community could have the best technology available to them so that they can learn. I thank the two of you. I thank you because without your knowledge, your information, your fight, I would not have been able to build the technology library that I did at 123, at 149, and on and on. Now, on the New York City Council level, that's the most critical level, and I stand here and tell you that because I will not be in the City Council next year. But it's important that the right person come in that recognizes that we cannot be in a horse and carriage days. We've got to carry Silicon Harlem forward to higher heights. I thank all of you for the support that you've given me, the loyalty you have shown me. And I want you to know that as I move on to the New York State Assembly, God willing, that I will stand up, I will stand tall, I will continue the fight to see to it that Harlem, West Harlem, East Harlem, Washington Heights, north of 96th Street, all will become Silicon Harlem. God bless.
Okay, we're going to pass around a basket to see how much money you're going to put in. That's a hard act to follow, but the good news is I don't have to follow it. Richard Louis does.
No, that's why I'm standing back here. You're up there.
What we're going to do now is very quickly move into a recognition that we've been wanting to do all day and frankly, all year. We've been lucky enough to partner with the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce over the past couple of years. And within that time, they've made a very strong commitment to technology and innovation and working with the young people in our community. So we wanted to say thank you to them and recognize them as the Charles B. Rangel Innovation Award Luncheon awardee. So if Lloyd Williams is out there somewhere, let's see if he comes in. Oh, he's right there. Where am I? You were standing right over here. I'm going to have him come up and say a few words, but we don't have a trophy for you, but you've got my services for the rest of your life. Bruce, did you want to say a couple quick words about the chamber and the work we've done? Or come up and get right to it. The microphone is his.
We don't need awards. Our trophies are Bruce and Clayton, and we could not have better living trophies than Bruce and Clayton. This year, and there are many chamber members in the audience, and I'm glad you've come out. And Winston, thanks for making sure everybody received the message. But this year, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, as most of you know, is celebrating its 120th anniversary of continued service. We had a kickoff celebration on the 4th of October, and the irony of that is the chamber was formed as the Harlem Board of Commerce on the 3rd of October in 1896. You can imagine the various changes in hue, color, language, purpose, direction, etc. Clayton knows how I feel about him professionally and personally, and I've been able over the last few months to just strengthen and establish a great relationship with Bruce. So let me just say a few words about this. Between 96th Street and 168th Street, from the Harlem River to the Hudson River, which is the actual service area of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, although we have members around the world, around the city, around the region. There are 4 communities: East Harlem, Central Harlem, West Harlem, and Lower Washington Heights. Oftentimes it's a question as to what's in the name. If you go back, you will find that in the activities that took place between Columbia University and City College of New York years ago, it was always called the Battle of Harlem Heights. So what has happened? Years ago, the name of Harlem was pulled down, as happened with all of urban America. There were people who did not wish to identify with Harlem. But it's changed, because what is Harlem? Harlem is the center of the most important and expensive real estate in the world, called Manhattan. We're in the center of it. As many of you know, Manhattan goes up to the 240s. And if that's the case, then where is 125th Street? So it's not complicated, as you see, where the bridges connect, where the airports connect, and everything else. So let me just close by saying this. There, between 96th Street and 168th Street, from river to river, there are 17 institutions of higher education. More institutions of higher education are in the Harlem community than any community in America. Now, much of this we know. And by the way, there are more being built, okay? They're getting ready very shortly to open up the new Columbia University. And there's now a new medical school being built at City College of New York. But what are we talking about? Because we oftentimes easily understand City College in Columbia, but so we sometimes forget that Teachers College, the College of Podiatric Medicine. We sometimes forget that the Manhattan School of Music. We forget that Union Theological Seminary and Jewish Theological Seminary and Bank Street College, and all of them, much less Toros, and all of them are part of what makes that up. So then doesn't it get us to look and say, well, how could we be in the heart of Manhattan, in the heart of New York City, with 17 institutions of higher education and more to come, and there's a digital divide? But then the question is, where is that divide? and you'll see disproportionately it grows where the hue and color of the residents are darker. Now, we can spend a lot of time talking about the white man and all that other stuff, or we could come together. Because if we're suffering, they're suffering. Sometimes they don't know it, okay, until it really hits them. Thank you, Donald Trump. But what we do kind of understand is the leadership. So let me close by saying this. The full board of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce in our quarterly meeting in September, thanks, by the way, to some leadership that came to me about 20 years ago or more from one of my best friends and board members, Tony Rogers. Tony, stand up. Tony! Okay. Tony was talking to me about technology and what we needed to do long before I was ready to hear it. I just wanted to thank you all for coming out. And I want you to just understand how important you are. You are all messengers. You are all warriors. You are all teachers. And you have to carry that message. I will end by saying this. A couple of years ago, in fact, last year, we started on this initiative with Silicon Harlem. So Clayton and Winston stand up, because Winston is our technology guy at the office and the executive director of Harlem Week. Clayton spoke to us, and Winston and everyone. So we're saying, we're going to do a technology initiative for the children. Everybody said, right, got to do that. We're going to do a technology initiative for the business community, right? We have to do it. We now need to do something for the arts community, right? We need to do it. And then I called Clayton aside and say, Clayton, I know I may be crazy. Well, I do know that. I admit to that. I said, but what do you think about doing something for the senior citizens? Yeah. So we went and we spoke to others, and some of them looked at us like we were a little off and said, well, will the seniors be able to understand that? Can they pick that up? Is that over their head? And we did the conference for the senior citizens, and the most engaging conference, where the questions and the directions were coming from the seniors to us. Clayton was blown away. And so that cannot happen without you. Enough said. Much respect to you, Clayton. Let me tell you, I told Bruce when I came in, I knew this was all over when I got up this morning, and I was awoken about 5:45 this morning by my wife, and I said, where are you going? She said, well, I promised Clayton and his wife that I would come and volunteer to help them at the conference in the morning. So that's the best in the world I can possibly give you. It's the best thing I have in the world, which is my wife, and that's my commitment to Silicon Harlem. Thank you.
How's that for a commitment? Who's going to beat that one? Nobody can. So we are now going to move into and congratulations, by the way. Well deserved. Okay. So now we're going to